Thank you, Acting Deputy President. Well, this bill is purportedly but not practically aimed at reducing emissions-intensive activities through Australia. It's irresponsible. It's hysterical. But we should be used to that, and I will get to this later. Its contents reflect the Greens' ongoing ambitions to encourage increased green lawfare and impose even tougher and more stringent environmental conditions and standards than already applied economic projects and activities across this country. And Adam Bandt and Sarah Hanson-Young have each openly stated in their second reading speeches that the purpose of the bill is as much about trying to stop new coal, oil and gas projects as anything else. But it is the Australian resources industry that is creating jobs, business opportunities, investment, especially in regional Australia, and I do really resent being implied as a FIFO politician living in North Queensland as I do. A little bit more research would be appreciated from the Greens. The Australian resources industry is the one paying the bills in this country, and we do an incredible job to extraordinarily high international standards, which means that as a country that mines, whether it be coal, oil, gas, critical minerals, rare earths, provide agricultural security to Australia and a good part of our neighbours, we export those standards as well as those products. That is something that we should be proud of. The resources and energy sector accounts for over 14.5% of Australia's GDP. That's $354 billion in 2022. I am not sure what the plan is when those royalty regimes, those corporate taxes, those well-paid PAYG jobs dry up. Who is going to pay the bills in this country? Who will allow us to have the first world health and education system that we have? Who allow us to live the quality of life that we enjoy in this country? And the sector's exports will peak at $464 billion in 22-23, the highest ever export earnings. And the Greens continue to make up numbers about the sector while ignoring the fact that it is ensuring our energy security. And the lessons of the past few months is that energy security equals national security for all Australians. So now we've got energy security, we have financial security and, would you believe, environmental security, because it is those well-resourced, profitable businesses who are able to afford to be good environmental managers. In fact, it is mining companies who employ the vast majority of environmental scientists, researchers and invest in land management projects in this country. And if we look at the work that Ranger Mine has done in Kakadu, their engagement with managing invasive species, in other activities there, that is never spoken about. That is never spoken about who is actually doing the heavy lifting in environmental management on country. And this bill incorporates provisions that would add a new category to the list. And we've heard details of this, of the already 9 matters of national environmental significance that are defined in the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act 1999, the EPBC Act. More specifically, passages of this bill would require the Federal Environment Minister to intervene to halt activities causing at least 25,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent Scope 1 emissions annually if they were to adversely affect Australia's national carbon budget and the fulfilment of the nation's emission reductions targets. But the key effect of this bill, if it was to be passed, would therefore be to disastrously force the federal government to limit or curtail many forms of industrial activity in Australia. And this is the bit that, unfortunately, most Australians won't hear this debate. Most Australians are at work today. Some are listening to this on the radio, but the vast majority are at work, and they're very pleased to be knowing that they are taking home a salary or a wage to support their family. And for those employed in these industrial projects, particularly well-paid mining resource industry projects, they are able to try and deal with the cost of living rises that in many cases are the result of these rushed, poorly thought-through environmental legislative changes that Labor has introduced and that the Greens would take so much further. It is Australians who suffer most from this kind of legislation. And it is the Greens who only want to talk about legislation. A friend of mine used to say, to a man with a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail. And that is exactly how the Greens look at this place. It's legislation, legislation, legislation. There is no understanding of the modern society that we live in. There is no understanding of the work that these businesses are doing to introduce new technologies, new environmental programs, because they live in these communities. They live in these communities, not in Canberra, not in inner-city Melbourne or Sydney, but actually in the regions where these activities are happening, and they care. The Greens have failed to specify the financial or regulatory impacts of this legislation. However, it is patently clear that if this bill was to be passed, these impacts would be substantial. It would give rise to even more environmental assessments and approval processes that already exist. Many businesses are already forced to spend months and years navigating and meeting exacting green tape and compliance requirements associated with these processes, not to improve environmental outcomes, but just to pay bureaucratic fees. And this new legislation would only exacerbate these problems. And as the final report of the recent Samuel Review noted, the creation of a climate trigger would also result in muddled responsibilities, further duplication and inefficiency across the various tiers of government in Australia. In short, a climate trigger would be economically destructive. Senator Payman previously spoke about Australians putting solar panels on their roof, buying EVs, but there is no acknowledgement that this is Australians' only way of trying to offset the grossly and fast rising cost of living, particularly electricity costs. And in Queensland, under the Labor government there, the introduction of the renewables rebate drove up electricity prices by $1 billion, which, guess what, that's paid by the Australian consumer, Queensland consumers, the people who can least afford it. It's harder to build a house. In Darwin, they can't expand to build more houses because of the existing environmental regulations, and it will be harder to have a job. Australia's high-quality coal and gas play an important role, not only domestically but in other countries around the world. And the Liberal National Coalition is committed to supporting these industries. Yes, happy to say it out loud, no secret, because it supplies Australia's high-quality resources, not just for this country, but to export markets to help lift millions out of poverty, to provide them with affordable, reliable electricity to both industry and to families. Because Australian coal is one of the highest quality in the world. We produce it more efficiently than most, meaning more energy, less emissions. And that puts our coal and gas sectors and the thousands of Australians who work in them in prime positions to benefit from the increased global demand for energy resources. As China and India increase their demand for coal, both for steel creation and energy generation, and Japan and Korea demand more gas to fuel their transition, it is in everyone's interest that our high-quality resources are the first choice for our partners around the world. Japan has publicly called on the Prime Minister to guarantee gas supplies over the coming years. It would be both embarrassing and inexcusable if we were to let our partners down, our international trade partners down, who rely on our natural resources. But were we to shut down our coal and gas production, to refuse to step up to our responsibilities to meet demand around the world, those countries who need our resources would, as we saw during the recent crisis, would turn to lower quality, higher emitting resources from other countries. We saw this in Africa, where countries were forced to turn back to burning wood, to burning dung, because they couldn't afford other energy generation. So moral grandstanding about Australia's coal and gas industries may make the Greens feel better, but shutting down our industries will have the opposite effect that they have hoped for. Because if Australia withdraws from exporting our high-quality coal and gas, global emissions will rise. Our energy exports provide a benefit beyond Australia. They support new technologies, new infrastructure across our regions. They bring hundreds of millions of people out of energy poverty and into the growing global middle class. Because nearly everything that allows us to enjoy a first-world lifestyle would not exist without mining, from high-tech manufacturing to the food on our plates, from energy generation to the steel frames that hold up our home. The Greens cannot tell us where they would source these vital imports that support our way of life. And coal and gas are not just used for energy, but they're critical in a number of vital products in modern society, like steel, like concrete, and like fertiliser. Gas plays a pivotal role in the production of fertiliser, critical to support the billions of people's lives on this earth. Ammonia, urea, this sustains food security of billions of people around the world. And petroleum is a vital component in the creation of plastics and pharmaceuticals. Coal is vital in many non-energy industries. I've mentioned steel and cement, coal to chemical processes, rare earth extractions, carbon fibre production, to name just a few. Because according to the World Steel Association, 780 kilograms of metallurgical coal is required to make a single tonne of steel, and over 200 kilograms of coal is required to produce a tonne of cement. And it would appear that the Greens have forgotten that wind turbines require hundreds of tonnes of steel in the production of every turbine, as well as cement for the base. And it has been said, if it is not made of steel, it's made in a factory made of steel. Thousands of different products have coal or coal byproducts as components. Soap, aspirins, solvents, dyes, plastics, fibres, including rayon and nylon. It's just another example of how disconnected from reality the Greens truly are. Because what this legislation would do, this legislation would just offshore our responsibilities, and would send it off to countries that are less regulated than ours, less capable, less able to deliver. And we have countries in other parts of the world, like in Africa, who are now starting to raise the flag and say in global forums, do not deny us the opportunity to enjoy a quality of life and lifestyle that you already have. Do not deny us the opportunity to live in homes that aren't smoky, to have a higher quality of living, and energy is the pathway to that, affordable energy. So Labor can claim they support jobs in the coal and gas industries, but their actions show they are more committed to securing Greens' preferences than supporting the workers of Australia. Labor has a chance now to reject the extreme position of the Greens, put their money where their mouth is and actually start approving new coal and gas projects in Australia. It's frustrating that the Greens are so divorced, so detached from reality, that they continue to talk down a vital Australian industry that provides jobs, funds services across this country. And Labor's reliance on the Greens continues to threaten Australia's coal and gas industries, which are key pillars of our economy, that continue to provide cheap and secure electricity, jobs and funds vital services.
Thank you, Senator McDonald.